All right, go.
Okay, my name is Simone, and I'm a junior studying marine biology here.
I'm Sofia Baum, she, her pronouns. I'm studying business admin and sustainability.
And we both went on the Palau trip last summer, so we're going to tell you about our experience and how the summer went. Let's see. Hello? All right. Do you want to go?
Yeah, so, sorry, I keep forgetting about this.
Yeah.
So there is no specific discipline or major requirement to go on this program. We actually had a cohort of 7. This was only the second year that we had done it. This upcoming summer will be the 3rd year. We had a variety of majors. We had myself, which is business admin and sustainability, Simone, who's marine sciences, marine biology, correct. We also had a WGSS, which is women, gender, and sexuality studies. We had undeclared, we had natural resource management.
And forestry.
And forestry, yep. Yeah, so there is no specific requirement to be on this program.
All right. So this class is a 14-day course in Palau, and if you don't know where Palau is, that is an island near Indonesia, Guam, and the Philippines. So pretty much in that whole like little island area. It fulfills your contemporary global issues backcourt, and you get 4 credits out of it, which is amazing because it's so much fun. So we addressed the issues of natural resource management in Palau. We looked at the terrestrial ecosystems and the marine ecosystems. But we also talked to stakeholders and government officials, and we looked at the sociocultural effects in Palau as well that natural resources have on them. Yep. Nope, that's backwards. Sorry. There you go. Trying to figure this thing out.
Yeah, so there's a variety of things. If you all are familiar with immersive experiences or immersive programmings that are generally fairly hands-on, so we were doing a lot of hands-on things. People that are scuba certified, like Simone, were able to take a little bit of advantage between the day break, and then also if they arrived early or stayed after to actually go scuba diving, because you could do tours there. You could also do snorkeling tours. We snorkeled for the class almost every day, so just to give you a little bit of context, second behind Indonesia, Palau has like the most majestic and the most biodiverse marine systems there. So you can see a lot of things just from snorkeling. Like we saw some pretty amazing things like crown of thorns, we saw like octopus, sharks, cuttlefish. We saw like some pretty amazing things. So snorkeling, you could still see a ton of things if you are not scuba certified. We also did boating. We looked at the Rock Island formations. Also like the formations of the different islands that were like volcanic or otherwise, or limestone. We did a lot of kayaking, or not a lot of kayaking, we did some kayaking. We did deep sea fishing with line fishing. We did talk a lot to stakeholders or community partners, and also other students. So we also partnered with Palau Community College that is on the islands, and so we were able to work with students there as well as with a nonprofit called Abil Society, which is a NGO that is focused on transferring traditional Palauan knowledge to youth, or to Palauan youth, but in addition to taking more like Western uses of natural resource management and applying them to the island. Their ancestors and Palauans in general have been kind of cultivating that land for years, the ocean and the land, and so reintegrating those practices into the camps that they host within the summers for the youth. Yeah, we also did hiking, exploring ancient ruins of the Rock Islands, and then transecting sea cucumbers and going to the taro patch. Just to give you a little bit of insight, and I'll talk about this, what a taro patch is. Do you all know what taro is? It's this purple root. So I'll just explain. So taro is this purple root, and what is fairly interesting with Palau is it's actually a matriarchal society, and so there are like specific gender roles, not in a like submissive way, but like specific gender roles is in like the men generally do like their own fisheries, and then the women also have their fisheries, but they also cultivate taro patches. We'll show you pictures, but essentially what it is it's one of their staple starches within their diet. So with fish, coconut, rice, like taro is a huge staple within their diet.
Also, this picture was taken by one of our fellow peers who went on the Palau trip, and this is, I believe it's a hawksbill turtle, and we saw this while scuba diving like a day before the actual trip started. So actually all of these photos that I put on the background, they're taken by someone who went on the trip last year, except for like the first photo, which was from a helicopter, so we didn't do that. Okay, so the coursework for this is, it's actually, I thought it was pretty fun to do, and you get 4 credits out of it. You have to keep a daily journal, and they'll give you the questions that you have to answer. It's pretty much like just a reflection every day. You have to make a daily blog, but that is a contribution of all the kids on the trip, along with the Palau Community College students as well. So you partner up with a Palauan student, and you pretty much just reflect on the day, but it's for everyone back home, and you use all the pictures you took that day, and it's pretty fun. And then the only like big thing you have to do is the final term paper. You do that when you get back home, and you have like 2 weeks to do it when you get back home. But I don't know if they switch it up every term, but the term we went on, we had to talk about a natural resource issue in Palau and the solution that we would give to like government officials to fix that problem. So my term paper was on how biodiversity is declining in Palau due to tourism, and how to keep tourism at its high, because that's a major economic value of Palau, but also keep the biodiversity high as well, because the biodiversity is what brings in the tourists. So that was mine.
Yeah, so the requirements to apply for this program is good academic standing, unofficial transcripts. You do short essays. I don't know if you all have been on other study abroad programs before, or are familiar with the OSU Go portal. You essentially do your whole application through the OSU Go portal. You also have to have recommendations. That is like fairly standard among any internship, job, or study abroad. This piece of like doing an interview with program leaders, that is what Simone had pulled from the OSU Go website. That was not specific, at least for us, that was not specific to our particular program. So we did not get interviewed. We did the application, and then we're told if we were accepted or not accepted, and then proceeded to go to the pre-trip meetings. We had to pass an OSU swim test. What that meant is that we were in the women's building.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So
pool on campus.
Yeah, or Langton, or some. Maybe it was Langton. I'm not sure. But essentially, what we did is that we were with a master diver, as well as one of our faculty leads, Scott, who is a marine biologist and also a faculty advisor himself. But he could not do it because he is a direct advisor for this particular program. But essentially, what we did is we had to prove that we could swim. The reason being is because we are snorkeling quite frequently, and the fatigue and like the knowledge of knowing how to swim is fairly important, especially when you are in the ocean, looking at everything below. Yeah, and then being able to keep up with physical demands of hiking, swimming, snorkeling in hot, humid conditions. So just to give you a little bit of an insight, essentially where Palau is in itself is at 7 degrees north of the equator, so it's an extremely humid climate. And once you get out of Koror, which is the main city, and because we spent 5 days up in Ole, which was like a northern, so Babeldaab is like this bigger landmass island, and so we were up in one of the northeast or northwest corners. It was a lot cooler because we weren't surrounded by concrete, and we were also on the water. But just to let you know, like, it is a fairly humid environment. You get used to it pretty fast, but you tend to sweat because of the humidity. Yeah.
And like, not to scare you, the OSU swim test isn't that hard. You just tread water for 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. So you do obviously have to pass it to go on the trip, but I'm sure if you didn't pass it the first time that they would work with you. Mm-hmm. To make sure that you can pass it and to go. And along with the swim test, they also give you snorkeling lessons for like maybe 10 minutes before that, just so they know that everybody knows like how to blow water out of your snorkel so you don't, can't breathe.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, just one more thing. So if you do decide to go on this program and you are looking into getting snorkeling gear, I actually highly recommend going to at least the place that I know that's in the nearest location to us is go to Eugene Skin Divers. I would highly suggest to invest in a good mask, snorkel, and fins, especially the mask and snorkel, just because you don't want to have like water leaking into your mask all the time. It's super worth it.
Okay, so I took this off OSU Go, so you can definitely, you don't have to like write this down really fast. You can just go on the OSU Go page. But the deadline for this application is February 15th, so you have about a month to complete that and to get your recommendation letters in. The decision date, they know that people are applying for internships and stuff like that, so if you don't know back from an internship yet, they'll definitely work with you. They worked with me on that, so it is rolling admissions. They will work with you on your decisions for everything else. The start date for this time is June 22nd. The end dates, they had a discrepancy on the OSU Go website. It's supposed to be a 14-day class, and they had July 5th and July 22nd as the end dates. I would assume it's the July 5th because that is a 14-day class, whereas the July 22nd end date is like a 3.5-week class. But I would definitely email the faculty leads on this project, which are Brian Indris and Scott Hippel, and both of their emails are on the OSU Go website. So I would definitely, if you're interested in this, just email them and make sure the date is right. Okay, so my personal insight on this trip was, I thought it was amazing. I really liked how small the class is. Last year they had 11 students. The year I went, we had 7, correct? So they typically keep it small. However, I don't know if there's a lot more interest, they might take more people, but it's kind of just like the logistics of the thing. But I really liked how small it was because we got to interact with each other on a more personal basis, interact with the Palauan students, interact with everybody else on a more personal basis instead of just this huge class that kind of just swept over Palau. I, as a marine bio major, I really loved it because we were in the water every day, scuba diving, snorkeling, on kayaks, on boats, deep sea fishing, which I caught that red snapper right there. I really liked it, but I also really liked that we looked at the socio-cultural aspects of it because I feel like as a marine bio major for myself, I'm definitely bio-focused, chemistry-focused, all of that stuff, and I don't get to look at the human aspect a lot. So I really liked the integration of that in there. I liked the length of the trip. It wasn't too much or too little. I felt like we covered Palau pretty well. I would love to go back. Obviously, there's more to do. But overall, I thought it was a really nice class, and for 4 credits, like, best class of my life, honestly.
Yeah, so I guess let me ask you all first, do you have any questions? Yeah.
So if we already have a summer term that's kind of packed up with classes at Hatfield, and so this is really a personal question, because I'm a junior and next term not next term, but next year I should be able to graduate early. Is this an option that if like I wanted to go on this trip, would I be able to do that like next year, even though I might have already graduated?
For like summer 2021. That's
Definitely a good question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Unfortunately, right, because we don't actually organize the program, we can refer you to Scott Heppel and Brian Endres and give you their emails, because that's a really good question for them. But unfortunately, like I don't actually know the answer to that. Yeah. Okay, so I'll give you all like my little 30-minute elevator pitch of why you should go to Palau. So just to give you a little bit of background, so I'm studying business admin and sustainability, but I actually do a lot of passion projects with a lot of other things. Like I do food security initiatives. I've done like social justice education. I've done like activism on and off campus. I've done like a variety of different things. I've participated fairly extensively with 3 different alternative break programs on reservations within Oregon and also Washington, and then within like communities of color. Just to give you a little bit of context of where I'm coming from and why I'm saying the things I'm saying. Palau was amazing. I have never been exposed to a matriarchal society like that. I have never been exposed to an island nation before in that sense. I have never been exposed to a nation that prioritizes doing natural resource management and educating the youth and looking forward to generations and what they will and will not have to deal with. We were set up in such a cool way where we were able to talk to Palauan community leaders that are like internationally recognized. Like when we were there in the middle of the week when we were at Abil Society, the founder of Abil Society, which is that nonprofit, her name is Ann Sing Yao, she was just like, oh, I'm just gonna go to Fiji and represent like my whole country for this international conference. And I was like, oh, okay. That was like pretty amazing. We were able to work with Chris Kittalong, which is one of the, he's also a scientist, but he's also one of the advisors for the Palauan community college students doing research, pretty amazing and like community-focused, community-centric research within the community about like public health, about food systems, about like invasive species, like the coconut rhinoceros beetle. Everything is interconnected and it is very, very visible. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I am fairly familiar with a lot of different things. I do not have that like marine biology focused. And the reason why I said that is because these systems in general, everyone knows, right, that they're not siloed. Everything that impacts the environment obviously impacts the people and vice versa. And I think that the community partners that we were able to work with are phenomenal, are like life-changing. I'm trying to go back so that I can learn from them. So if you are interested in learning more about that piece, it is like a wealth of knowledge and information where the students get a ton out of it, both from like a sociocultural lens, from like watching indigenous communities reclaim their culture, language, and traditions, which is amazing, and then also seeing it from like marine biodiversity lens or natural resource management, however you kind of want to take it. So that's my soapbox. Thank you for listening to me. Yeah, and also the Taro Patch. So this is actually really cool. So when we were at Abil Society, which was a 5-day program, or I'm sorry, we were there for 5 days. We actually slept at like on site, and so this is Isuko, which is a 13-year-old. They call them campers. She was Patty's daughter actually. Yeah, and then this is Elu. Who was she essentially did project management, so she was in between her undergrad and her grad program at this particular time when we were there last summer. So she has her bachelor's degree from University of Hawaii, and now she is in Japan studying for her master's degree. But essentially what we were doing is these were all the female students that were on our program, and because it is a matriarchal society, like we were the only ones that were allowed to go in the taro patch because women traditionally are the only people allowed to steward the taro patch. And so what we were doing is we were walking through the waterways of the taro patch. So this is all, where they are walking is essentially a waterway, and so we ended up going up to our knees in like mud and water, yeah, and mulch, and it was fairly amazing. So you would see these big plots of taro patches, and like the women that would go through and harvest them, and then also there was also workers, Filipino or Bangladeshi workers that would go through and harvest them for a lot of the Palauan elder women, a lot of the Palauan elders. But like you don't really get that in Oregon. Like that's like really, really amazing. So this was just like a pretty amazing experience. Yeah.
So one thing I did want to say is that how many of you have gone abroad before? Like, okay, one. Where did you go?
I went to Australia.
Okay. Oh yeah, James Cook. Okay. Anyway, if this is your first time abroad, which it sounds like it would be, Palau is a really amazing place for it to be your first time. The U.S. has interacted with them they were colonized by the Spanish back a long time ago. Then they were colonized by the Germans. Then they were colonized by the Japanese. And then the Americans kind of recolonized them, saved them. But we have a strong presence in Palau. So they speak English. They use the American dollar. But they also speak Japanese. They speak Spanish. There's just a whole bunch of different cultures within pretty much every family because of their different heritage from Spanish, Japanese, German, everything like that. It's a really interesting mix of cultures. So if this is your first time going abroad, it won't be hard to communicate with everyone. Everybody knows English. It won't be hard to figure out how to buy stuff because it's the American dollar. And, everyone is really friendly. Everybody just wants to promote conservation in Palau. So I would highly suggest this if it is your first time going abroad.
Mm-hmm. It's also a very safe nation. Just putting that out
Yeah.
there. It's super safe.
Does anyone have any questions? No? If you have more questions or if you want to email the faculty leads, Brian and Scott, just type in OSU Go Palau. It'll pull up the OSU page. You'll have to probably scroll down pretty far for Palau or just, search find Palau. But all the information is in there. The costs associated are in there. It's kind of to be determined because of your plane ticket and stuff like that. But it's all in there if you just want to search up that information. Yep. All right. Thank you, guys.